Hi, I'm Jeff Sweet. I want to continue talking about structure. One of the purposes of structure is to set the audience's expectation of when the show will be over, what the finish line will look like. When you establish that a play or a movie has an event structure, the audience knows that the show will end when the event that gives the story its shape is over. For instance, when the audition for the chorus is over, you know you're heading into the finale of the chorus line. When they put out that fire that's roaring through the skyscraper, you know that the end credits of the Towering Inferno are soon to come. And when the jury reaches its verdict, as in witness for the prosecution or countless other trial plays, you know that the final curtain will follow shortly. So those are the kinds of expectations you set up when you tell the audience they're watching a show that is event structured. A character structure sets up a different expectation. In a character structured piece, you usually establish a single leading character, and somewhere along the line, either overtly or implicitly, you set up what the character wants, the character's objective. And then the show moves to the point at which the audience discovers whether the character is going to achieve what they want. When that's revealed, they know that the story is going to be over in a minute or two, when they get the signal of whether or not the character is going to achieve what they want. So, in A Streetcar Named Desire, what does Blanche want? Safe harbor. She wants a haven. And she comes looking for that to her sister's house, and pretty quickly discovers she's not going to find safety in that house as long as Stanley Kowalski's there. So she switches her hopes to marrying Stanley's friend Mitch. And Stanley ruins that possibility for her too. And at the end, she is being led to a mental institution. And so in an ironic way, she does indeed find what she's looking for when she is taken away to that particular safe harbor. We know that the play is over. Well, one of my favorite character structured plays is Harold Pinter's The Collection. James believes that his wife may have slept with Bill. Bill's older boyfriend, Harry, also suspects that Bill may have slept with, well, someone, maybe James. But in any case, the main story is James trying to discover the truth about what did or did not happen when Stella and Bill were in the same hotel during a weekend convention of dress designers. The play ends at the moment when we discover that James will never find something that he can believe is the truth. In fact, in the last scene, he offers a working theory to Stella and asks her, that's the truth, isn't it? And she just smiles at him, and the play is over. Of course, we in the audience don't know what the truth is either. It's a sneaky little play that way. Anyway, so now I want to talk about obstacles. In a character-structured piece, the plot is determined by what stands between what the character wants, their objective, and where the character starts. Plot is constructed out of the obstacles between these, between where the character starts and where the character wants to go. I think that there are three different kinds of obstacles. One is what I call the physical obstacle. That is to say, an obstacle that has no consciousness. Lawrence facing the desert in Lawrence of Arabia. I mean, the desert doesn't know it's an obstacle, but it's an obstacle. And all those stories about people climbing mountains or breaking out of jail or crossing the sea or breaking into Fort Knox. In none of these stories is what the leading character has to overcome an entity possessing thought. And of course, the physical obstacle can be smaller. Think of all the scenes of the silent comics up against physical challenges. Buster Keaton trying to build a prefab house, or Harold Lloyd trying to impress a girl by climbing up the side of a building and at one point dangling from the hands of a clock. Okay, the second kind of obstacle is when a character faces the obstacle of other people's will. I mean, we could be talking about an individual who's standing in the way, or a group, some hostile force in society. I mean, much of Ibsen is about figures challenging a society determined to bring them down or force them to a compromise. Many Vivid plays, though, are based on characters facing individual vivid antagonists. Again, in Streetcar, Blanche is confronting Stanley. In Schiller's Mary Stuart, Mary Queen of Scots faces no less an antagonist than Queen Elizabeth I. By the way, have you noticed that in a lot of thrillers, science fiction and comic book movies, the villains that the American heroes confront are usually played by actors with classical chops? Bruce Willis against Alan Rickman and Jeremy Irons, and all of the Shakespearean actors who have played evil characters in Star Trek, Star Wars, and Marvel movies. Subtextually, I think this is often about how we Americans want to take those overeducated, snooty types down a peg, particularly the Brits. I mean, nothing makes American blood boil more than an arrogant, privileged Brit quoting Shakespeare in that plumbing accent before they try to blow up your starship. Anyway, the third level of obstacle is, I think, the most profound level, is when the obstacle a character faces lies within themselves. Back in the days before caller ID, when the telephone rang and you just answered it, I remember you answered it with a slightly guarded tone. You said, hello, and you waited for the other person, the person on the other end of the line to identify themselves. And as soon as you found out who was on the other line, you would shift into the voice that was appropriate for speaking to that person, maybe a parent or a person trying to sell you something, your boss or an assistant, or somebody you were hoping to ask out on a date. But you switched to that specific voice that was appropriate to the person on the other end of the line. It was almost like a click when you switched over to that voice. And this makes clear that we do not, in fact, speak with one voice. We speak with many voices, all of us, and each voice represents another role we play. We are walking repertory companies. I think the most profound dramas arise when two or more roles within your leading character come into conflict with each other, when that character, in fact, is at war with himself. At this point, I want to emphasize that you can have all of these different kinds of obstacles in the same piece. Blanche not only faces the obstacle of Stanley, she faces the obstacle of the contradictions within her own character, and also an obstacle she can do nothing about, the fact that New Orleans is a very hot place and the Kowalski apartment doesn't have air conditioning. The subject of a character at war with themselves, or what I call roles in conflict, is a huge subject, and I'm going to start exploring that in the next video.